I have two announcements before we move into the lesson part of the service. 24 years ago, I decided to do a Easter brunch downstairs after the service. And we weren't equipped here with our volunteers to create that kind of a brunch for everybody, so I started looking around. And one of the places I frequented was a little cafe up the street about a mile, vegetarian cafe. And the food there was great. So I asked one of the owners if they would come down and do an Easter brunch for us. And she said, I'll have to check with my partner. Check with the partner. She said, we'd like to come down and see what we're dealing with here. So they came down, they looked at our kitchen, they said, yes, we can do that. It is a wonderful brunch. They never left. Eden Alley, 24th anniversary. And they have fed tens of thousands of people good, healthy, nutritious food. And the beautiful thing about it is when the Fillmore started Unity at 9th and Tracy, they also had a vegetarian cafe. And Eden Alley uses many of their recipes. So it's just a beautiful thing to see that happen. Also, for the first time ever, my best friend in the whole world is here. I don't think he's ever been to church before, but he is. His name is Isaiah. He's 5 years old. He's my grandson. And you can look around, but you won't see him because he's up in the balcony. But you might hear him as time goes by. Yay, Isaiah! Well, we're here this morning to celebrate and commemorate the life and message of Jesus Christ. Some of you may relate to Jesus as a spiritual brother, some as a teacher, some as a way shower, some as a Messiah, some as a Savior, some as a Lord. It doesn't make any difference how you relate to him, but it's good that you do have a relationship with him of some sort, that you can gain from him the wisdom that he gave us. Now, over my lifetime, there's been more books written about Jesus than anybody else in the world. If we had all the books lined up on this stage, many different stacks that reach all the way to the ceiling. Now, the problem with that is the books were written from many different people of many different religions, of many different perspectives, of many different viewpoints, and each one had their own special take on who Jesus was. Some believed that he was God. Some believed that he was a peasant that came out of the field that had a great deal of awareness. Some other people believed that he's a fraud or a charlatan. It gets so convoluted and so tangled in trying to understand who Jesus is with all these books that sometimes we lose sight of what he really stood for. And that is very, very simple. He stands for his lesson. You know, some say he was born of the virgin birth. Some say he resurrected from the dead 3 days after he was crucified. Some say he walked on water. That is all fine. It might be true. It might not be true. But what is important is the message he brought to the world. That has the potential to change anybody's life here and now, or lives of people 2,000 years ago. Jesus, at his time, didn't have the wherewithal to write a book or write down notes or pass out flyers so people could remember what he said. So he taught in stories. People remember stories. They create an image in their mind, and these stories were called parables. And every parable had a moral to the story, so to speak. His main message was the kingdom of heaven. All of the parables are about the kingdom of heaven. It's mentioned in the Gospels 79 times, and so it is a primary focus of what he was telling us. Now, heaven can be the destination we go to after we leave this planet. He talked about that. And some of us have been told, myself included, that we might be able to get to heaven if God judges us to be naughty or nice. We might be able to get to heaven if we suffer enough during this lifetime to gain salvation, and then we'll be allowed into heaven. And then a lot of churches throw in a little bit of extra spice to it by saying, and if that doesn't happen, you're going to go to hell. And this is what hell is like. All sorts of torture for eternity. Well, today we're going to look at heaven as Jesus looked at. And the first point of this Easter lesson is nobody has to suffer through this time to gain salvation. You don't need salvation. You were not born a sinner. You were born an original blessing, and your ticket to heaven is already stamped. The second thing, there is no hell. I've been saying that for 27 years. Some of you hear it, some of you don't hear it. This week, the Pope says it, and he gets the headlines. What is that all about? And to be real honest with you, I think with our new streaming service, he's been listening in. So Jesus talked about the kingdom of heaven as being a place that we can go to or that we will reside in after we leave this lifetime. But he also talked about it, more importantly so, as a way of experiencing life here and now. A blissful state of life, a joyful state of life, still have problems, still have challenges, still have missteps and setbacks, but nevertheless, a way to experience life with all of that and still maintain a sense of well-being. To help explain how Jesus taught this, I'm going to ask you to draw on your imaginations. We're going to talk about a little story, and this story involves you. In a different dimension, there is a kingdom, and you are the ruler of that kingdom. You have full responsibility for what goes on inside it. You make all of the calls. You instill order. And you teach the people within the kingdom the laws of the land, so to speak. The people in the kingdom are very obedient, and they're willing to listen to you as you lay down the 3 precepts for the kingdom. And the first is peace. Peace because it's the most important thing any of us desire. We can go through any problem or challenge or setback or offense, whatever it might be, but if we can maintain peace of mind, we restore our strength and we can move through it. The second thing is harmony. Harmony is our most natural state. Every kid that comes into the world is in a state of harmony, only to yell out when certain needs aren't being met, but the universe is in harmony. And the third is love, the greatest experience any of us can have. So it's peace, harmony, and love. That's it, he tells the people. Stay calm, practice those 3 things. And he gives it to them as a choice, not as a demand or a dictate. He says, if you're dealing with erratic circumstances, choose peace. If you're in a conflict with another person, choose harmony. If you're in a place where you are irritated or mad or resentful for what's going on in your life, choose love, and all will be well. But once in a while, a stranger wanders into the kingdom. And this stranger is ignorant to the ways of peace, harmony, and love. And this stranger is a bit obstinate and a bit rude and a little bit irritating to the people, and so they start to get shaken. And the emotional environment within the kingdom begins to deteriorate. Or another instance is a storm comes in, and the skies turn dark, and people can't see, and they begin to fear, and they begin to worry, and they begin to have doubts that they might be able to survive it. In the darkness, the light is lost. So you, as the ruler, it is your job to keep an eye on what is going on, a watchful eye, a mindful eye, and when the people get off the peace, harmony, and love, it is your duty to calm them down and to restore that which is of value. Now, this story about the kingdom is true to a certain extent. It's a metaphor. The kingdom that you are the ruler of is your kingdom of consciousness. All of your thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and perceptions are inside you. You know, we walk through life and something happens and we might get hurt or we might get mad or something, and we think life is doing that to us. Life isn't doing anything to us. Life is just happening out there. Every experience you have takes place in here. You're the one that creates it. Your thought people, so to speak, which are the people of the kingdom, are the ones that you allow to act out or to express things that do not bring a center of well-being to you. So you are the ruler of this kingdom of consciousness. You decide. Nobody else can. It's your total responsibility as to the experience you're having at any given time. All the people are thoughts, feelings, attitudes, and perceptions that populate your kingdom of consciousness. And sometimes those thoughts are good, sometimes they're not so good, sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're sad. But nevertheless, they're all the people in your kingdom that you direct. The stranger that wanders into the kingdom are those people that come into your life, or those situations and circumstances that come into your life that you're not completely familiar with, and you resist them because you think you can't do it. They upset you. They deteriorate the emotional order within your kingdom of consciousness. The storms that come in are those things that happen that you just don't understand. Why me? Why is this happening? And sometimes there's the shadow that's cast over your life that is so dark, it totally blocks out the light, and you become worryful, you become afraid, you become anxious, you become doubtful of your own self. But as the ruler, it is your responsibility, it is your job to move into that kingdom of consciousness and just calm everything down, knowing it is going to be okay. And you have two tools that you use to do that. One is faith, and the other is trust. Have faith that you have what you need to make it through the darkest storm or to deal with any erratic circumstance. Just have faith in that. And the other is trust. Trust that you are a child of the living Spirit. You're an expression of divine Spirit. You have a power within you that can allow you to rise above and move beyond anything that attempts to hamper your peace of mind or sense of well-being. Now, each and every one of you that came here today, you should have gotten a flower. If you haven't, raise your hand, and the ushers will bring you one. But I want you to hold that flower and just look at it for a second. That flower comes forth from the same source that all of us do. And think about its beginning. It was a tiny seed that was taken and buried deep in the earth. And it had to break its way out of the shell of the seed. It had to sprout. The tiny little fragile sprout had to weave its way up through the dirt. And it met with mild resistance, where there were dirt clogs that couldn't go through, so it had to go around. But it did that, and it pushed its way through the earth. And then it had to withstand strong winds and hard rains and days and days and days without sun. But it did that. It continued on its divine path within it to become the fully blossomed flower. And that's true for each and every one of us. I know we have problems. I know there are challenges. I know there are setbacks. I know there are conflicts in relationships. But move forward knowing that the potential within you will always restore you to a higher level of peace and a higher level of good. So when we come up this morning to place our flowers in the boxes here on the altar, when you place it there, it is an affirmation that you are a beautiful presence to this world and that you have everything that you need to go forth and live your life in a way that is not only good for you, but is good for everybody. So we'll now prepare for meditation, and then we'll do the flowered cross.